discuss the recurrent political developments here on the streets of Egypt and the political situation and the anticipation of the people who are waiting for the upcoming referendum for the new charter that is on its way to be drafted and proposed to the interim president and to be put for referendum for the whole people. Also, in addition to the protest law that was approved by interim President Adli Mansour and caused a lot of debate and a lot of dissent among the opposition and the human rights organizations, of course, international human rights organizations, and of course the Muslim Brotherhood supporters. A lot of issues are under debate, and we're very delighted to have with us Mr. Muhammad Bartash, the political analyst, the columnist and writer at the Ihram Ebdo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Bartash.
Good morning.
Good morning. And first, we of course want to ask you about the political situation here in Egypt, the clashes we're witnessing amid the political developments and the efforts by the government to stop these protests. Of course, as we said, as Zina said, the protest law that has been passed recently has initiated clashes contrary to its actual aim. How do you see this, and do you think that it was a mistake by the government to pass such a law at this time in particular?
Well, to announce it's just a mistake, I think we are going too far. But since the beginning, I would say that we are repeating the same, let's say, mentality, the same way of thinking, the same way of preparing even issues to the public to be presented later on to the public. This has been practiced for the last 3 years. Up to now, we are practicing the same way of thinking, the same way of taking even decisions. Now I'm pretty sure that we are working, or the governments, whoever the governments for the last 3 years, is completely isolated from the public. We are working in, let's say, isolated islands. Everyone is perfect in his own place, but we cannot have this consensus among each other. And I think this is the major problem that we are facing nowadays. The law by itself, it's okay, can be applied in Europe, in the States, in countries that already experience democracy for a long time. It's in a relaxed situation when it comes to revolution, etc. In the case of Egypt, we cannot apply the same. It's not the same environment. We cannot apply the same rule. Especially we have lots of laws in Egypt that are not really applied perfectly well. We have more than like 63,000, and this is a huge number of articles in terms of laws exist in Egypt, and great part of them are not applied. So this is in one hand. On the other hand, I would say, before preparing the protest law, where were the government itself when it comes to the public? Did we open up the discussion with different revolutionary groups in Egypt? We have to understand something very important. We are still in the revolutionary period. And of course, revolutionary period needs revolutionary decisions. Different way of thinking, to be more proactive, more creative. Otherwise, if we go into this kind of classic decisions managed and practiced by experienced people, let's say, I don't want to mention any age, but I would say experienced people, who is taking nowadays the front line instead of the revolutionary people. I mean, say, people who were not participating at the revolution physically, but now they are on front line. This is completely illogic. If we are in a revolutionary period, we need revolutionary people to be in front. And behind them, or the second line, should be these, let's say, experienced people, to give them the advice. They are more mature in terms of political decisions, but front line should be people who are representing the public. Again and again, whoever the government is came to Egypt up to now for the last 3 years, they are not acquainted, they are not matching the movement in the street. They are completely isolated. In one hand, we have the Prime Minister who really presented the protest law. And I read this morning, unfortunately, his vice, or let's say the Vice Prime Minister, Dr. Ziad, he is criticizing the law. It's amazing. He's not satisfied about the law, and I think he was part of this consensus. this contradiction that gives us an idea that again and again we are in isolated island. Everyone is separate from this whole group that can take the right decision. And even before taking the right decision, you have to open up the discussion with everyone, the opposition, with everyone, revolutionary people, with young people, with everyone, all groups exist in Egypt, before taking such serious decision that will affect everyone in the street. This law, which is 25 articles, and I remember that even we discussed this before, that will go into too much details, 25 articles classified into 4 chapters. First chapter is about definitions, general rules, etc. Second one, procedures and regulatory controls. Third chapter is about penalties, and this we have to talk about. And then the third one is procedural provisions. Why we go into too much details? We are in a very critical period. We need simple decisions that affect people directly. People that they feel it, they see the results in the short term. We cannot work for long term when it comes to political issues. So this is the main idea. When it comes to the chapter 3, which about the penalties, they gave us an array of penalties, which great part of them already exist in the laws. We don't need to issue new laws. We have already sufficient number of laws can be applied. Just we need to apply it. And it is varied from a very lax, let's say, penalty to very strict and very strong application of the penalty. So I will take just a few examples. Just wearing a mask, you are subjected to like 30,000 Egyptian pounds penalty just to wear a mask during the manifestation or a protest or whatever. But possessing weapons that threatening the public and everything, you are subjected to 7 years penalty, in prison, and like 100 or 200,000. It's really, there is big contradiction, I might say. And in the meantime, this penalty already exists in our law. If you are threatening the public, using weapons, etc., the ordinary or the normal law is more strict even than the protest law.
Right. Mr. Bartash, it's very obvious that the current government is falling between a rock and a hard place. It doesn't want to fall into the image of the former regime of Mubarak, the police state controlling government that was brutal and that was used to use excessive force and oppressive and all that stuff. But on the other hand, it needs to answer quickly the agitated calls of more than 45 million who came, demonstrated and protested on June 30th, calling for the same government and for the Egyptian army to be able to save them from the fascism of political Islam that didn't work with it and was so corrupted. So those people who were demonstrated into the streets of Egypt, all over Egypt, and was filmed by Google Earth all over the world, they want to go to work, they want to have their daily routine to continue, they don't want violence in the streets, they don't want to see mutilated bodies, they don't want to see shops and cars broken everywhere, they don't want to see threats by Islamist jihadists and militants. These are all agitated causes that needs answers, and every stage has its own nature. So why don't people want to understand? I mean, the people like Dr. Ziad Bahauddin want to understand that there are 45 million who do not wish to see violence and terrorism in Egypt. And that's why this law of protest came to answer those calls for a very short period of time.
That's true. First of all, we have to answer one basic and fundamental question, which is what is the main purpose, what are the main objectives of the mass Egyptians, the mass people, I would say, is first of all to see justice applied on earth, to see the justice is applied and announced, and then to practice freedom. I mean, say those are very, let's say, basic initiatives and very important 2 issues that the Egyptians nowadays, now it means today, they want to see it applied 100%. we have not created what we call the justice environment in Egypt. In one hand, we are very slow when it comes to applying penalty, political penalty upon certain people, and on the other hand, we are very extremely fast when we apply something similar, like what happened to Alexander Girls, for instance. The application of penalty was too fast, the decision has been taken, etc. In this environment, the law is correct, the decision is correct, but we don't take into consideration we are still in this turmoil situation. We are still in a revolutionary period. So on one hand, we go to the extreme always. This has been repeating this since long time. We go always to the extreme. So in one hand, people, they want to see justice. They want to see justice, not just to hear that we are in the process in this and the court will take certain years, etc. They want to see justice today and to practice freedom at the same time. Those are the main important two issues.
Some people are criticizing the protest law, saying that we are now going to be turning into a police state. What would you say to that?
No. As I said before, the law by itself is correct. There is nothing wrong with the law itself.
People criticize that as well on international grounds, saying that there is no international law that says that you would have to take permission to protest.
No, this exists everywhere. In Europe, in the States, even it's more strict even in Europe, by the way. The law, the protest law, even is more strict in Europe. But we have to analyze the environment. It is applied in Europe. We have to see the level of education there.